morning to everybody. So I am Pujar sir, I will be taking a biology subject. So for PUC first year. So today we will start the first chapter of the PUC first year syllabus, the living world. So the living world, the word itself suggests what actually the chapter or this topic deals with. So the world of living organisms. So we study about just some introductory part of living organisms. So there are certain terms related to the living. Now the first basic thing about this living, what is the difference between non-living and living organisms? So generally we know what is living and non-living. But there are some specific or distinguishing features which we can mention, which we can say about living and non-living. So the important difference between living and non-living is growth and reproduction. So these are the main differentiating features between living and non-living. So whenever we see an object, we want to decide whether it is living or non-living. First you observe whether it grows or not, whether it reproduces or not. So if there is growth and if there is a reproduction, so that means it is living. If these are absent, definitely it is non-living. So other characters we can mention: metabolic activities, then consciousness, healing and repair, then even movement, then death. Of course, these cannot be considered as distinguished because suppose movement, this is also different. Living organisms, they move, and non-living, they do not move. But when we consider in a strict sense, plants do not move, and there are certain organisms which has no movement. So that means so these are some which can be considered as general differences. So the main difference is growth and reproduction. So that is about the main characteristics of the living organisms. So mainly growth and reproduction are the two important characters of living and non-living. So then coming to the other part of this chapter. So initially we come across certain terms which we can mention. Now for example, biodiversity. So this is almost a word which we have studied in the lower classes. So bio life, diversity means variety. So in a place, in a habitat, in a region, if there is a variety of plant and animal life, we call it as biodiversity. So a forest can be considered as biodiversity. So but for example, an agricultural field, somewhat we cannot consider it as biodiversity because there are no variety of plant life there in that region. So a particular crop, a particular plant is taken care and it is grown in that area. So that is biodiversity. So biodiversity, it includes different types of animal life and also plant life. So that is what is biodiversity. Then we come across another word called as systematics. So this is a variety of plant and animal life, that is biodiversity. So that is a basic part of the chapter. Then systematics is another terms which is related. Now this diversity of organisms, when we study this diversity of organisms with relation to the comparative and the evolutionary relationships of the organisms. So of course there are different types of plants, there are different types of animals. But when we consider them in relation to their comparative relationship and also the evolutionary relationship, then that study or that science is called as systematics. So this systematics, which is also referred as biosystematics, when we consider all living organisms, we call it as biosystematics. But systematics means which is a basic term. Sometimes systematic botany, systematic geology. So when we consider only plants, when we consider only animals, we come across such kind of terms. So that is what is systematics. So this is also the study of the diversity of the organisms in relation to their comparative and evolutionary relationships. Now evolutionary relationships means we come to know about how that organism has been originated and changed in the past. So for example, we human beings, when we consider our relationship, the monkey, apes, chimpanzee, they are related to us. So that means in the course of evolution, so these organisms are related to each other. And when we study this in comparative relationship, so that deals with the systematics. So biosystematics, systematics, that is the study of the diversity of organisms in relation with the comparative and evolutionary relationships of the organisms. And there is one more general term called as taxonomy. So taxonomy, it is about classification. So not only classification, so there are three important aspects in taxonomy. So taxonomy means it is naming of an organism, and actually first point is identification. So identification, naming and classifying deals with the science of taxonomy. So taxonomy is suppose when we observe an organism, whether it is a plant or animal. So first we have to identify that organism, means whether it is a plant, animal or any other unicellular organism or like that. So after identification, we have to give a particular name to that organism. So naming the organism, then classifying that organism into a particular group. So that deals with the taxonomy. So systematics, that is different. So there we study, of course, systematics and taxonomy, they are related terms, but in systematics we study about the diversity of the organisms with the reference to its comparative and evolutionary relationships. So we compare the relationship of the organisms. We also study the evolutionary aspects of the organisms. But in taxonomy, it is identified, named and based on its characters. So the certain morphological characters. So based on the morphological characters or even anatomy, certain anatomical characters, so there it is classified in a particular group. So that is about this taxonomy. So this taxonomy, when we study, we come across still more detail about that. There is a chemotaxonomy, there is a phytotaxonomy. So like that, when we study a particular aspect of that organism, suppose when we study the chemical aspects of that organism, so based on the this chemical composition of the organism, so that is chemotaxonomy it is referred as. So based on the chemical aspects on what they contain, so whether it is an organic, inorganic or whatever it is, so that taxonomy is done, classification is done. So naming the organisms and identification of the organisms and classification is done. Then in the living world, another important aspect is binomial nomenclature. So binomial nomenclature, so this is usually we have come across in the lower classes. That means in the lower classes we have studied about this. So it is a system of naming each and every organism which consists of two words. Now this system, so every organism is named. So it is nothing but a system of naming the organism which has only one name. So that is the only one name which is having, means this is important in the knowing what is binomial nomenclature, and it is consisting of two words. So that name is having two words. So it is a naming system, and where there is only one name for that organism, and that name is consisting of two words. And this system was actually proposed by a scientist called as Carl Linnaeus. So Carl Linnaeus, so what he says about this system, or why he proposed this system, in other words. So when Carl Linnaeus visited different places in the world, of course he belongs to European country, Sweden. So when he visited different countries, he got confused, or he came across that a plant or an animal, an organism has different names according to their language. Now for example, if you take our country alone, any plant you take, so that plant is having a particular name in our state. Of course it is in Kannada. When you go to other state, it is having another name in their language. When you go to Maharashtra, it is in Marathi language. When you go to Tamil Nadu, Tamil language, and Kerala, Malayalam, Telugu in Andhra Pradesh, and like that, different. And not only that, even in the same language, there may be different names. So for example, in our state itself, ಈಗ ನಾವು ಪೇರ್ಲ್ ಹಣ್ಣು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ತಗೊಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ನಾರ್ತ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ, ಇನ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಪೇರ್ಲ್ ಹಣ್ಣು, ಬಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಟು ಸೌತ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಸೀಬೆ ಹಣ್ಣು. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಗೋ ದೇರ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ನೇಮ್. Suppose when we hear that name, we may believe that it is some other plant. So like that we get confused from one place to another place. So in our place it is having one or two names, and in other state there it may be having another two or three names. So like that if you go through all the states of the same country, so there are so many names for the same plant. So that means so we cannot remember all those names for that plant. So when we want that plant in other state, we cannot use the name in Kannada in that state. They cannot understand. So we have to call it by that language, isn't it? When we are going to that state or that part of the country. So like that, Linnaeus thought. So by avoiding all such common names, what we are using, so we shall use only one name universally and throughout the world. So that system of naming the organism, he calls it as the binomial nomenclature. So binomial, bi means two, nomial means name, two names, nomenclature, naming system. So that name consists of two words, hence he called it as the binomial nomenclature. So name is only one, but that name should be followed throughout the world. So this name he calls it as the binomial nomenclature, and it is also called as the scientific name or the botanical name or zoological name. So this is what is binomial nomenclature. And when he proposed this system, there were certain rules for this nomenclature. He prescribed certain rules for the binomial nomenclature. Of course, each word means each name is having two words. For example, you might have know the name of a human being, which we call it as Homo sapiens. So Homo is one word, sapiens is another word. So this is the name of a human being according to Linnaeus, who proposed the binomial nomenclature, the naming system. Then what are the rules which are to be followed? He prescribed certain rules for this binomial nomenclature. So what are those rules? Now whenever a name is given to that organism, plant or animal or any other living organism, so of course there are two words. So the first word is called as the genus, the second word is called as the species. This is the name of the word what he has given. Now Homo sapiens is the name of human being. So Homo is the genus, sapiens is the species. Then coming to the rules. So there are actually four important rules for this. First, the rule is always the word should be in a Latin language. So of course we have written this in English language, but these words are of Latin origin. Homo means it is not an English word, though we have written in English language, but origin is Latin. Sapiens, it is a Latin word. So this one rule is what? So whenever a name is given to an organism, that word should be of Latin origin, or it should be Latinized. Means sometimes the Latin word is changed or modified to a certain extent. So that is what the first rule says. Then the second rule, according to Linnaeus, who proposed, now the first word, which is called as the genus, it should always start with the capital letter. So this genus word, it starts with capital letter. It should be written like that. And the word, the species, it should have with the small letter. This is another. So here actually this is not capital. So like this, the species name should be in small letters. And by that way we can find out which is the genus and which is the species. So here H is written as capital. That means the genus starts with capital letter, the species with small letter. That is the third rule of binomial nomenclature. Now the fourth rule of binomial nomenclature means, now whenever this word is written in books, means when we are writing the notes or like that, so when you are writing, that name should be underlined. So like this we should underline that word. So when you are writing this in a sentence, so that genus and species name is included in that sentence. So when it is included, the name should be underlined. So this indicates that this is a scientific name, or this is the name according to the binomial nomenclature. Then suppose if it is printed in the books, in case of handwritten it is underlined, but when it is printed in the books, so then so when it is written it should be underlined, but when it is printed it should be printed in italics. So italics means somewhat cursive writing. It is a way of these words which are printed in the textbooks. So the word should be printed in italics. When it is written, it is to be underlined. So these are the four important rules of binomial nomenclature. And so always we should use a Latin word. So suppose when you discover or identify a new plant or animal, so first thing, what you should do is, you should give the name of this to this organism, that is genus and species. Now that word what you are using, genus and species, it should be Latin origin or Latinized, means slightly modified from a Latin word, that we should use. So then another important thing is, after the species name, the name of the author or name of the person who has described this organism is written in abbreviation. Now for example, if I write Homo sapiens Linnaeus, so no need of writing the complete name of that individual. So that means Linnaeus has described this organism, and he has used the and he has given the name, genus and the species. So this is what Linnaeus explains. So for different names, there are different name of the scientists. So this is one example just. So what Linnaeus came in contact with the plants and animals, so he has given the names of genus and species. But other scientists, they used their names and they were written at the end of the species. So this is what is binomial nomenclature. Then after the period of Linnaeus, here we come across another part, ICBN, which is called as International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. Then International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Now after the period of Linnaeus, scientists, they framed certain rules and regulations related to binomial nomenclature. What they called it as the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, abbreviated as ICBN, and International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, ICZN. Now this International Code of Nomenclature, ICBN, now what it actually explains, or what it states, in other words. So what Linnaeus said, that a scientific name or a name given to an organism according to binomial nomenclature should be always in Latin. So that was the rule which was prescribed by Linnaeus. But however, as there are so many number of plants and animals, so there are about more than 1 million of plants and animals. So we require 1 million words of Latin. Means they should be of different words. So one word which was used, a word which is used, a genus or a species, when we are using for a particular plant or animal, the same word should not be used. So that was again, that means we should use another word for genus and species. So but in Latin it was not available, means such a number of words were not available. So that is why later, after the period of Linnaeus, scientists, they changed the rules that the name which is to be given, it should not be necessarily in Latin only. So a scientist who discovers a plant or animal, he may use his native language and he may use some other language of the world. So it may be a German language, it may be a French, or it may be Spain. So like that, different words or different words from different languages were used, and that is called as the International Code of this Botanical Nomenclature, ICBN, and International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, ICZN. So this is for plants and this is for animals. So for example, here again we come across the definition of species and a definition of genus. Now for example, species, genus. Now this genus and species, by taking another example, so this is one example of botanical, this binomial nomenclature. So one more example of a plant I will be giving you here. For example, Hibiscus rosa sinensis. This is one name of a plant. Again, Hibiscus esculentus. This is another name. Then Hibiscus cannabinus. This is another name. So these are some other examples of plants. So Hibiscus rosa sinensis, commonly it is called as China rose, and this is esculentus, it is lady's finger, and this is Deccan hemp. So these are the three plants, just for example, to understand about the genus and species. So how the names are given. So Hibiscus rosa sinensis, China rose, or sometimes it is called as shoe flower. So the common hibiscus, what we use, we see in the garden, ದಾಸವಾಳ ಅಂತ ನಾವೇನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So this Hibiscus rosa sinensis, it is the name of that plant called as China rose. So that means in China it is treated as we treat the rose, means they give importance to that flower. So it is called as China rose. So it is also called as a shoe flower. It is a common name, but generally we use the word hibiscus. Hibiscus ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರಿತಾ ಇರ್ತೇವೆ. Shoe flower, why it is called shoe? Now actually this plant was used as a shoe polish in the olden days. Actually when shoes were first discovered, polish was not known, and usually in military what they used the brown colored shoes. So when these shoes, when they lost the color, when they faded away, they used these flowers and they used to rub the flowers against the shoes so that they appear red in color, and that is why it is commonly called as shoe flower. ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಈಗ ಕೆಂಪು ದಾಸಾಳ ಹೂವನ್ನು ಅದನ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಶೂಸ್ಗೆ ತಿಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅವಾಗ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಶೂ ಫ್ಲವರ್. ದೆನ್ ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಎಸ್ಕ್ಯುಲೆಂಟಸ್, ಲೇಡೀಸ್ ಫಿಂಗರ್. ಸೊ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಯು ನೋ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ ವೆಜಿಟೇಬಲ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಕೆನ್ನಾಬಿನಸ್, ಡೆಕ್ಕನ್ ಹೆಂಪ್. ಸೊ ಡೆಕ್ಕನ್ ಹೆಂಪ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಪುಂಡಿ ಪಲ್ಯ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಕಾಮನ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ called like that. So these are the three plants just I have given. Now after seeing the names here, what we come to know, all these three plants they are having the same genus name, but species name are different. So this is the genus and this is the species. So when China rose was first observed, so this was the name given to that. Again when lady's finger was observed, so this was the name given to that. Now here, why the plants are given the same genus? Question. So though they are different plants, This is a different plant. Of course, this is an ornamental plant. This is a garden plant. We are not eating anything of this plant. It is not used as vegetable. But this is a vegetable plant. This is also a vegetable plant. We are eating the leaves of this plant, isn't it? So, though these are different plants, here what Linnaeus said is, whenever a species and species are closely related in most of the character, means when they are resembling each other in most of the characters, then we can use a common genus name for them. So when the China rose plant, when the lady's finger, Deccan hemp are having different species name, so they are of course different plants and they are given different species name. But when these plants are closely related to each other, hence a common genus name is given. Now, closely related means in what sense? Then again the next question. Now, we have seen China rose plant. Dasal hua ಬಹುತೇಕ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನೋಡಿರಿ. Lady's finger plant also you have seen probably in your garden and like that. So, this is not used for eating, but this is used for as a vegetable. And again we may argue here, and again here Deccan hemp, we use the leaves of this plant, we use the fruits of this plant. Of course, we do not use the fruits of this plant, but however China rose has no fruits at all, and even the flower also is not used. And again you see this flower is usually red or white in color, and lady's finger it is somewhat yellow in color. So, this is also somewhat yellow in color, isn't it? But when these are having different characters, how these are related? So, related means we are considering almost all the characters of the plant. It may be root character, it may be stem character, it may be leaf character, it may be flower character, fruit character, seed character. Color of the flower may be different. So, we are not restricted to the color. So, this shape of the flower may be different, color may be different. So, we should not only consider such characters, you consider the other characters, the structure of the root, the structure of the stem and other characters. So, when you consider, so these plants they are closely related to each other. So, that is why these plants, though they are of different species, but they are having a common name of the genus. So, a common genus name is given. Similarly, if you take an animal, so Felis leo, then Felis tigris. So, lion, tiger. So, Felis leo, Felis tigris. So, lion and tiger, they resemble each other. So, of course, there are some differences between a lion and tiger, but they are having most of the common characters. Hence, they are having the same genus called as Felis. So, these are some examples of botanical names or the names which are given to plants and animals according to the binomial nomenclature, which was proposed by Carl Linnaeus. So, what actually Carl Linnaeus, after saying that the name should be, means this is the only name according to that system. So, that is very important. So, only one name. So, Homo sapiens. So, we cannot give another name for that human being, another scientific name. Similarly, Hibiscus rosa sinensis. This is the only scientific name. This is the only name which is given according to the binomial nomenclature. That is what Linnaeus said. Once when the name is given, so that name should be followed throughout the world, and this should be universally followed. Now, in English we call it as China rose. In it is also called as shoe flower. In some other language, it is called by different names. So to avoid such confusion, Linnaeus proposed this system. So he said that instead of using these common names, this name, which is actually Latin, so these are all Latin words. So these names, which are of Latin origin, so they should be universally followed, and so that this avoids confusion of different names. But one difficulty, practical difficulty came across here. So the remembering the names of these plants or animals was very difficult, because Latin language is not a universal language, just like English or some other languages. So Latin is a language which is restricted only to a particular part of the world. So only in some region of the world or a country this language is used. And again, these Latin words cannot be remembered so easily. So they are very difficult to remember, and they are also difficult to pronounce also. And that is why that practical difficulty was not known by Linnaeus. So, but simply he proposed that the name should be of Latin origin, and that should be followed universally. And again, of course, the name which is given, they are having certain meaning here. They are having some background. For example, Rosa sinensis, rose. Sino means China. So that is why it is called as Rosa sinensis. Esculentus means edible, eatable. So in Latin, esculentus means eatable. So we are eating this as a vegetable. That is why esculentus. So hibiscus means actually plants growing in marshy areas, and hence they are called as hibiscus. So as these plants are growing in marshy areas means with somewhat moist containing soils, and cannabinous means fiber containing. So this Deccan hemp is a fiber yielding plant. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಪುಂಡಿ ಪಲ್ಯ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ, but when that plant, the plant what we are using as vegetable, it is a very small plant what we get in the market. ಸೊ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪುಂಡಿ ಪಲ್ಯ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ when it is allowed to grow to its maximum height, it grows for about 6 to 7 feet, means more than our height. So it grows to that height, and it becomes very thick stem. So the stem also becomes very thick, and in this stem, suppose this is a stem, you will find fibers like this. There are small fibers, thread like structures in the stem of that plant. So when the plant grows to a very tall height, so that stem is cut off, and then from the stem, by a certain process which is actually called as retting ಅಂಥೇಳಿ ಒಂದು process ಬರ್ತದೆ. We come across a process called as retting. So retting of fibers, removal of the fibers is done, and from these fibers ropes are prepared. So they are made. ಹಗ್ಗ ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಈಗ ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಸಣಬು ಕಾತಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಸೇಮ್ ಹಂಗೆ ಪುಂಡಿ ಹಗ್ಗ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾವೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ವಿಲೇಜಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನೋನ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಇನ್ ವಿಲೇಜಸ್. ಸೊ ಪುಂಡಿ ಹಗ್ಗ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ cannabinous word is used. So that is why, so different these names which are given, they are having a particular meaning for that. So here the names are used like this. Now coming to this International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. So after Linnaeus, scientists they modified the rules of the binomial nomenclature. Now what they said, whenever we discover a plant or animal, here you need not use a Latin word for that name according to binomial nomenclature. So when you want to give a name for that plant or animal or for that organism, not necessarily to use Latin language. You can use your own native language. Such example I will give here. So this is a name of a plant. Which I have written here. Putranjiva roxburghi. It is a name of a plant. Sometimes this genus and species name are also named after a scientist. Here Roxburghi is one name of a scientist, William Roxburgh. Actually he is not a scientist, he was a nature lover, means he used to care to the nature. He used to grow plants and increase the number of the plants in the areas. So he was one such person. Before the independence in our India he was there. So today the largest botanical garden in Calcutta, which is of about 40 acres in Calcutta, it is actually established by William Roxburgh. So after his name, the species is given to this plant. The name of the species is given as Roxburghi. Now Putranjiva, so this is actually a Sanskrit word. So here Putra Jiva. So you can come to know. Putra means son, Maga anta ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So Maga Kannada. Putra actually Sanskrit original. We are using in Kannada also Putra, Putri like that. So Jiva, life, Prana. ಕನ್ನಡದೊಳಗೆ ಜೀವ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಣ ಕನ್ನಡ ವರ್ಡ್, ಜೀವ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತ ವರ್ಡ್. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ಕನ್ನಡ ಶಬ್ದ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ ನಾವು. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ವರ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ಪುತ್ರನ್ ಜೀವ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ನೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸೈಂಟಿಸ್ಟ್. ನೌ ವೈ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಗೇನ್? ಪುತ್ರ, why we are using the name of a son or life? Actually, in practical sense, the seeds of these plants are taken and when they are used in the form of a garland, ಅಂದರೆ ಇದರ ಬೀಜಗಳನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಲಿ ಮಾಡಿ, when it is used in the neck of the newly born children, ಅಂದರೆ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದಂಥ ಮಗು ಏನಿರ್ತೈತೆ ನೋಡ್ರಿ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ವೆನ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪುಟ್, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಫ್ರಾಮ್ ಇವಿಲ್ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್, ಅಂದರೆ ಕೆಟ್ಟ ದೃಷ್ಟಿ ಆ ಮಗುವಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೀಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂಥೇಳಿ ಒಂದು ನಂಬಿಕೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನೇಮ್ಡ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಪುತ್ರಂಜೀವ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪುತ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಯಾಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ, ಸೊ ಇನ್ ನಾರ್ಮಲಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಓಲ್ಡನ್ ಡೇಸ್ more importance is given to the son in a family. So that is why, so the word putra was used to give the name for that. So that is Putranjiva Roxburghi. So this is another name. So to give another example, so this is the name of another plant, Begonia purpurea. This is the name of a scientist. So this purpurea, purple color of the flower. Now this is a plant which is commonly grown along the roadside. ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಗದಗದೊಳಗನ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ ಅದ. Now this Begonia purpurea, which is a purple color flower. Now this Begonia genus is used. Actually the Bohin is not a name of a single person. It is the name of twin brothers, Caspar Bohin and Joseph Bohin. They are two. They are twins actually. So Caspar Bohin and Joseph Bohin, they are both scientists. They studied about taxonomy. They studied about plants mostly, and certain animals also. Now this why it is named given. Suppose if you see this plant, if you see the leaf, it is like this. So this is the leaf, how it appears. So this is the leaf. So this is one leaf which is actually split into two parts. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಲೀಫ್ ಆದರೆ ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ ಇದರಿಂದ ಒರಿಜಿನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾವೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಕಾಮನ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಆರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಪಿಟಿಯೋಲ್. ಸೊ ಹಂಗೆ ಅವಳಿ ಜವಳಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಯಾವಾಗ ಅಂತೀವಿ, ಟ್ವಿನ್ಸ್ at a time they are born, isn't it? So here also at a time they are these two lobes, we can call it as leaf lobes. So the leaf is divided into two lobes, and so that is why these two lobes represent in the memory of Bohin brothers, twin brothers, and hence that plant is called as Bauhinia purpurea. So that means name of the scientist is also given, and even name of this Sanskrit word is given, and even name of a city is also given. So there is one algae, green algae. So all algae, fungi, they are also having scientific names, or the names according to the binomial nomenclature. For example, there is one algae. Actually, it is having a particular genus. Here I don't mention that. So the name of that species is this one. This is the species name of that algae, Madras patensis. Madras patensis. So Madras means Chennai, which is now renamed. So Madras is the capital of Tamil Nadu. Patensis means Patana, city. Madras city means that algae, green algae, which was discovered, probably that it may be Chlorella genus. So this green algae was first observed in a pond, in a small pond in Madras city, and that is why it is called as Madras patensis. So like that, today, according to the ICBN and ICZN, so whenever we discover, or any person who discovers a plant, animal or organism, he can name, according to binomial nomenclature, he can give the name of the genus and species of any language of his own interest, not only his native language. So when, suppose if I discover a new plant or animal, I may not give the name only in Kannada. I may give that name of genus or species of any language of my interest. ನನಗೆ ಯಾವುದು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್, ಅದರೊಳಗೆ ನಾ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಲೈಕ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಟುಡೇ ದಿಸ್ names are given according to that. And even one more surprising thing about that naming. So you might have heard about orchids. So orchids are called as epiphytes. So these orchid plants, which are plants, they are grown for that beautiful flowers. So actually the shape of the orchid's flowers are very peculiar. They are more attractive. So today orchid gardens are cultured, they are cultivated. How the crops are cultivated? So in certain parts of the country, orchid gardens are cultivated, and orchid flowers are exported to other countries. So that means they are very highly valuable flowers. And these orchids which are of different type. So a new orchid actually which was discovered, a new species or a new plant which was discovered, or sometimes when we say discovered, it may be produced by plant breeding. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ಲೇ ಇರಬೇಕಂತಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ಮೇ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಸೀಯಿಂಗ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲಿ. Just by certain experiments, by crossing different species, we may create a new species, a new variety, and we can give a new new species name or a genus name for that. So like that today certain orchids which are developed probably by plant breeding, so they are named after certain highly personalities of our country. For example, Amitabh Bachchan, Sachin Tendulkar. See, they are an expert in one particular field, you know. So the name of Amitabh Bachchan is given to a species name of one orchid today. And even Sachin Tendulkar, his name also is given to a orchid. So that means I am telling you this because the binomial nomenclature has been changed presently according to ICBN and ICZN. So that is called as the international code which we can use a name of a scientist or any city also we can use, or even you can use any word which gives the meaning for that. So that is about ICBN and ICZN. Now coming to meaning of a species and genus, just definition of that. Now species means a group of individuals with the fundamental similarities. So that is very important. So this word we should remember, a group of organism with fundamental similarities. So whenever you are asked what is a species, just if you write this much enough, group of organisms. So that is very important. Group of individuals or organisms with fundamental similarities is called as a species. So when you see any group of plants, group of animals, when they are all similar to each other, it is a species. When you are seeing a group of dogs, cats, buffaloes, or any other animals, it may be a bird, or even it may be plants. For example, in a field, when you see groundnut, on the shenga, bare shenga gida nodtare. And like that you see in any other field a similar group of plants. So that means those group of individuals which are having fundamental similarity, it is a species. So if you see a field with the lady's finger, means it is a species. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಬರೇ ಒಂದು ಹೊಲದೊಳಗೆ ಬರೇ ಲೇಡೀಸ್ ಫಿಂಗರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪೀಸೀಸ್. ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಸಿ ಇನ್ ಅದರ್ ಡೆಕ್ಕನ್ ಹೆಂಪ್, ಅದು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪೀಸೀಸ್. Now why you are considered this as a species and this as a species? Why you are not considered as this as the same species? Because species in another sense, it is a group of species with fundamental similarities. Okay, but very important thing means they do not interbreed themselves. There will be no reproduction between these two. Means this and this plant will not reproduce and gives rise to new plant. So reproduction takes place between only one lady's finger plant and another lady's finger plant. Means between same species, but not between different species. So a species can be considered as distinct whenever there is no interbreeding among themselves. So this is what is actually species. Now similarly here, lion and a tiger. Why you are not considering lion and a tiger as the same species? Question. Because lion and a tiger are considered as different species because they do not reproduce and produce a new organism. So that is why lion is a distinct species and a tiger is a distinct species. So this is what is the meaning of a species. And already I said, whenever a species and species are related to each other, closely related in or which are resembling in most of the characters, then they belong to the same genus. So already I have given one example. So all these three are resembling each other. So here we should not consider only one or two characters. Already I said we should consider each and every character of that plant or organism. Then we should take into consideration how many characters are related to each other. So when a species and species are closely related in most of the characters. When they are resembling each other, then they are said to be belonging to the same genus. So this is what is genus and what is species. Then about species and genus, now this is one species and this is another species. Now the plural name for the species is not specieses, it is also species. So singular and plural are same here. One species, two species. So this is one species, two species. So specieses ante use madangilla. So species means it is applied for both singular and plural. But for genus, here it is considered as genera. So this is one genus, this is another genus. So this is genera. So when there are two different genus names, this is one genus and this is another, this is called as genera. Adake now genera anta now karita irteve. So like that, what is a species and what is genus, and why the species are related to each other. So all this is about the binomial nomenclature. So in this we have to remember about the rules and what is ICBN, ICZN, and what is a species, definition of a species and a definition of genus. So thank you.